The massive space station floating in the void looked like a crystal flower made of metal and light. This was the home of the Galactic Council, where leaders from across the galaxy came to make important decisions. Today, however, the station buzzed with fear and panic. Admiral Veltar stood at the center of the council chamber. His tall, blue-skinned body moved with grace as he addressed the gathered alien leaders. The Zephyrian military commander had seen many battles in his long life, but nothing like this current threat. "Fellow council members," Veltar began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber, "I bring terrible news from the Outer Rim. The Void Swarm has broken through our defenses. 3 core worlds have fallen in the past month." A wave of shocked sounds filled the chamber. The crystalline lithoids made musical tones that sounded like breaking glass. The energy-based plasma entities flickered with worried colors. The insectoid hive clusters buzzed in their complex language. Counselor Nixara rose from her seat. The lithoid leader's body looked like a walking diamond, reflecting light in all directions. "Admiral Veltar, surely our combined fleets can stop these creatures. We have the most advanced weapons in the galaxy." The Admiral's face showed his sadness. "I wish that were true, Counselor. But the swarm learns from every battle. When we use energy weapons, they adapt their shields. When we fire missiles, they create new armor. Nothing we do seems to work for long." In the observation deck above, Captain Crix of the Hive Clusters watched with his compound eyes. His species had fought the Void Swarm before, many years ago. Back then, they had barely escaped with their lives. Now the swarm had returned, stronger and hungrier than ever. The chamber fell silent as Veltar activated a holographic display. Images of destroyed planets appeared in the air above them. Cities turned to ash. Forests consumed by black, crawling things. Oceans drained of all life. "The swarm doesn't just destroy," Veltar explained. "It consumes everything. Matter, energy, even the basic elements of planets. Where they pass, nothing remains but empty space." Commander Thys of the plasma entities spoke next. Her voice sounded like wind through electric wires. "What about the ancient weapons, the ones our ancestors used in the First Galactic War?" "Already tried," Veltar replied. "The swarm consumed them too. It seems to feed on any form of energy we throw at it. Our best scientists believe it might be impossible to stop." The council members looked at each other with growing fear. For thousands of years they had lived in peace. Their civilizations had grown and prospered. They had art, music, science, and philosophy. But none of them had ever faced anything like this. Dr. Zenth, the chief scientist of the council, stepped forward. His species, the Mentari, looked like walking trees with glowing bark. "We have run computer simulations of every possible battle plan. The results are always the same. Within 6 months, the swarm will reach our core worlds. Within a year, our entire civilization could be gone." The weight of his words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Some council members began to whisper about evacuation plans. Others talked about finding distant galaxies where they might hide. Suddenly, a young technician ran into the chamber. His name was Vec, and he worked in the long-range sensor division. He looked nervous, but excited. "Admiral Veltar," Vec called out, breathing hard, "we've detected something strange on the outer sensors. A ship is approaching from the dead zone sectors." The dead zone was what they called the empty regions of space between galaxies. No life had ever been found there. No one had any reason to travel through such vast emptiness. "What kind of ship?" Veltar asked. "That's the strange part, sir. It doesn't match any design in our databases. The energy signature is completely unknown, and it's heading straight for the swarm battle zone." The council members looked at each other with confusion. Who would fly toward the most dangerous area in the galaxy? And what kind of species could create technology that their advanced sensors couldn't identify? Veltar made a quick decision. "Put it on the main display." The hologram changed to show a view of space. Far in the distance, a small dot moved against the stars. As the sensors focused, the image became clearer. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was much smaller than their own battleships, but it looked incredibly strong. The hull appeared to be made of some gray metal that their sensors couldn't identify. Strange markings covered its surface. Most surprising of all, it seemed to be armed with weapons they didn't recognize. "How long until it reaches the battle zone?" Veltar asked. "At its current speed, about 6 hours," Vec replied. Counselor Nixara spoke again. "Should we try to contact them? Warn them about the swarm?" "Yes," Veltar agreed. "But carefully. We don't know if they're friendly or hostile." The truth was, the Council had never encountered a completely unknown species before. All the civilizations in their galaxy had been in contact for thousands of years. They shared technology, culture, and knowledge. But this ship came from somewhere else entirely. As they watched, the mysterious vessel continued its steady approach toward the most dangerous zone in the galaxy. Its crew had no idea they were flying into a war that had already claimed billions of lives. But perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Someone who didn't know the fight was supposed to be impossible. Someone who might see solutions that the Council's greatest minds had missed. The chamber fell into tense silence as they waited to see what would happen when the unknown ship reached the battle zone. Would its crew turn and flee when they saw the void swarm? Would they be destroyed instantly like so many others, or would they somehow change everything? Time would tell, but for the first time in months, some members of the Galactic Council felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, salvation was approaching from the empty darkness between the stars. The countdown began. 6 hours until first contact with the unknown ship. 6 hours until they learned whether the galaxy's darkest hour might also be its moment of greatest opportunity. Admiral Veltar gave orders to prepare the Council's fastest ships for escort duty. Whatever happened, they would be ready to help, or defend themselves. The future of galactic civilization might depend on the next few hours. In the distance, the mysterious ship continued its approach, completely unaware of the desperate hopes now focused on its arrival. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the ESS Thunderhawk, looking out at the stars through the main view screen. The ship had been his home for 2 years now, ever since Earth's first deep space mission had begun. He was a man of average height, with short black hair and serious eyes that missed nothing. "Captain," called Navigator So-min from her station. She was a young woman with quick hands and an even quicker mind. "We're approaching the signal source, but I'm reading something strange on the sensors." Hyunwoo walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "Multiple energy signatures, hundreds of them, and they're moving in battle formations." So-min's fingers danced across her controls, trying to make sense of the data. "Sir, I think we're approaching the middle of a space battle." Chief Engineer Tae-ho looked up from his station near the back of the bridge. He was an older man with graying hair and hands that were always covered in grease from working on the ship's systems. "Captain, whatever's out there is using technology I've never seen before. The energy readings are off the charts." Weapons Officer Ji-won checked her. Targeting systems. She was a serious woman who had served in Earth's military before joining the space program. "Weapons are ready, Captain. But honestly, I have no idea what we might be up against." "Take us out of hyperspace," Hyunwoo ordered. "But keep us at a safe distance." The stars stopped moving, and suddenly the view screen showed them something that made everyone on the bridge stare in shock. Hundreds of alien spaceships filled the space in front of them. Some looked like floating crystals. Others appeared to be made of pure energy. Still others resembled giant insects with metal wings. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The most shocking part was that they were all fighting against something that looked like a black cloud filled with sharp teeth and claws. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Yoon-ji. She was a young woman who had studied 20 Earth languages before joining the crew. "Captain, I'm receiving transmissions on multiple frequencies. They're not in any language I know, but the universal translator is picking up fragments." "What are they saying?" Hyunwoo asked. "Warning messages, danger alerts, and—" Yoon-ji paused, listening to her earpiece. "They're asking us to identify ourselves." Suddenly, the Thunderhawk was surrounded by alien ships. They appeared from nowhere, using some kind of technology that human science couldn't explain. The ships kept their distance but clearly had weapons pointed at the Earth vessel. "Captain," So-min reported, "I count 12 ships in formation around us. They're blocking our movement but haven't fired." Hyunwoo made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Instead of running or fighting, he chose to talk. "Yoon-ji, open a channel on all frequencies. Let's see if we can communicate with them. The young communications officer worked quickly, broadcasting on every frequency the ship could produce. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Hyunwoo, of the Earthship Thunderhawk, he said clearly. We come in peace. We detected a signal from this area and came to investigate. We mean no harm to anyone. The response came immediately. A voice spoke in accented but understandable English. Earthship, this is Admiral Veltar of the Galactic Council. You have entered a war zone. The area ahead is extremely dangerous. You must leave immediately. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They had traveled for 2 years to reach this place. Earth had spent enormous resources to build the Thunderhawk and send it on this mission. They couldn't just turn around and go home. Admiral Veltar, Hyunwoo replied. We've come a very long way to be here. Perhaps we can help with whatever problem you're facing. There was a long pause before the alien admiral responded. Captain Hyunwoo, you do not understand. The enemy we face has destroyed entire star systems. Your single ship cannot possibly make a difference. So-min was studying the battle through her sensors. She turned to Hyunwoo and spoke quietly. Captain, their tactics are all wrong. They're fighting defensively, trying to contain the enemy instead of attacking its weak points. You can see weak points? Hyunwoo asked. Several of them. The enemy formation has gaps that could be exploited. But these aliens are fighting like they're trying not to lose instead of trying to win. Tae-ho added his own observations. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours in some ways, but it's also more specialized. Our systems are designed to adapt and modify. Theirs seem locked into specific functions. Ji-won was studying the alien weapons through her targeting computer. Captain, their weapons are impressive, but they're all energy-based. No kinetic weapons, no missiles, no physical projectiles at all. Hyunwoo processed this information quickly. Earth's military doctrine was built on flexibility and adaptation. They used whatever worked, whether it was high-tech energy weapons or simple kinetic projectiles. The aliens seemed to have focused on perfecting one type of technology. Admiral Veltar, Hyunwoo said into the communicator, what exactly are you fighting? They are called the Void Swarm, came the reply. They consume everything in their path, matter, energy, entire planets. Our weapons seem to have little effect on them. Yoonji was listening to multiple alien communications at once. She looked up at Hyunwoo with excitement. Captain, I'm picking up tactical data from their fleet communications. Their battle plans are incredibly complex, but they're also very rigid. They don't seem to adapt when the enemy changes tactics. So-min pointed at her screen. Sir, look at this. The enemy is about to break through their defensive line. If that happens, those civilian evacuation ships will be destroyed. Hyunwoo saw the danger immediately. Hundreds of alien civilian ships were trying to escape from the battle zone. But the defensive line was collapsing, and the dark crawling. Things of the Void Swarm were moving toward them. He made another decision that would shock the aliens watching. All hands prepare for combat, he announced over the ship's intercom. We're going in. Captain, Admiral Veltar's voice came over the communicator. What are you doing? You cannot engage the swarm alone. We're not engaging alone, Hyunwoo replied. We're engaging smart. Tae-ho quickly powered up all the ship's systems. The Thunderhawk had been designed for long-range exploration, but it was also built for survival in unknown situations. Its weapons were simple but effective. Its armor was basic, but strong. So-min, plot a course through that gap in their formation, Hyunwoo ordered. Ji-won, prepare missiles and kinetic cannons. Yoonji, try to coordinate with the alien fleet. Tell them to focus their fire where we direct it. The Thunderhawk moved forward, accelerating toward the battle. The alien ships around them seemed confused, unsure whether to stop the human ship or follow it. Captain, Tae-ho called out. The aliens are right about one thing. Their enemy does adapt quickly. But I think I see something they missed. What's that? The swarm adapts to energy signatures and defensive patterns, but our technology is completely different from theirs. The enemy has never seen kinetic weapons or human tactical thinking. As the Thunderhawk entered the battle zone, the aliens watched in amazement. The human ship moved unlike anything they had ever seen. Instead of maintaining formation, it darted between enemy vessels. Instead of trying to overwhelm with firepower, it struck at specific weak points. The galaxy was About to learn what happened when human determination met alien technology. The Thunderhawk dove into the battle like a hawk attacking prey. The alien fleets had been fighting the Void Swarm for hours, using careful formations and precise energy weapons. They fought like they were playing a game of chess, moving pieces, carefully and thinking several steps ahead. The humans fought like they were in a street fight. Ji-Wan, target the big one on the left, Hyun-Woo ordered. Hit it with everything we've got. The weapons officer smiled grimly. She had been waiting for this moment since they left Earth. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, locking onto a massive swarm creature that looked like a black octopus made of metal and shadow. Firing missiles, she announced. 6 missiles, shot out from the Thunderhawk's launch tubes. But these weren't the energy projectiles the aliens were used to. These were solid metal warheads filled with high explosives. The Void Swarm creature had never seen anything like them before. The missiles punched through the creature's adaptive shielding like it wasn't even there. The explosions tore huge holes in its body, and dark fluid sprayed out into space. Admiral Veltar watched from his command ship in amazement. How did they penetrate its defenses so easily? His science officer, a young Zephyrian named Krell, checked his readings 3 times before answering. Sir, their weapons don't use energy signatures that the swarm can adapt to. They're purely kinetic. Physical projectiles with chemical explosives. Chemical explosives? Veltar couldn't believe what he was hearing. Those are ancient technologies. Primitive weapons from the early space age. Yes, sir, but primitive weapons that the swarm has never encountered before. On the Thunderhawk's bridge, Taeho was making rapid modifications to their systems. Captain, I'm reading the alien energy frequencies. I think I can boost our shields by copying some of their techniques. Do it, Hyun-Woo replied. So-Min, what's our next target? The navigator was studying the battle through her sensors, seeing patterns that the aliens had missed. There, Captain. See that cluster of smaller swarm ships? They're protecting something bigger. If we can get past them... I see it. Hyun-Woo turned to his communications officer. Yoon-ji, can you coordinate with the alien fleet? Tell them to focus their fire on the cluster when we attack. Yoon-ji had been working frantically to establish better communication with the alien ships. Captain, I'm talking to the Lithoid commander. She says their weapons can't penetrate the cluster's defenses. Tell her to fire anyway. We need a distraction. The young woman spoke rapidly into her communicator, using the universal translator to convert her words into the musical tones of the Lithoid language. A moment later, she nodded. She agrees, Captain. They'll attack on your signal. Hyun-Woo looked around his bridge at his crew. These 4 people were the first humans to fight alongside aliens in a space battle. They were making history with every decision. All right, people, let's show them how Earth fights. Full speed ahead. The Thunderhawk accelerated toward the cluster of swarm ships. As it approached, the alien fleet opened fire with their energy weapons. Bright beams of light and plasma filled space, striking the swarm creatures and forcing them to adapt their defenses. But while the swarm was busy adapting to energy weapons, they completely ignored the small human ship approaching with kinetic. Weapons! Now, Ji-Wan! Hyun-Woo shouted. The weapons officer fired everything the ship had, missiles, railgun rounds, and even simple metal slugs shot from magnetic accelerators. The swarm ships had no defense against weapons they had never seen before. 3 swarm vessels exploded in rapid succession. The others scattered, revealing the larger creature they had been protecting. It looked like a massive brain covered in black tentacles, each one as big as a battleship. That's their command unit, So-Min realized. It's coordinating the entire attack. Counselor Nixara watched the human attack from her crystal ship. Her species had been studying warfare for thousands of years, but they had never seen anything like this. The humans didn't follow any known tactical doctrine. They improvised, adapted, and struck where their enemies least expected it. How do they think so quickly? She asked her tactical officer. I don't know, Counselor. Their decision-making speed is far beyond our normal parameters. It's like they don't plan at all. They just react and attack. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had evolved as predators. Their brains were wired for hunting, for quick decisions under pressure, for finding weaknesses in their prey. The Galactic Council species had evolved from herbivores or energy beings. They thought in terms of defense, cooperation, and careful planning. But sometimes careful planning wasn't enough. The massive brain creature began to pulse with dark energy. New swarm ships started materializing around it, born from its own substance. The aliens had seen this before. When a command unit was threatened, it would create more soldiers to defend itself. "Captain," Teho called out, "I'm reading a massive energy buildup. That thing is about to create an entire new fleet." Hyunwoo made a decision that horrified every alien watching. Instead of retreating to a safe distance, he ordered the Thunderhawk to fly directly toward the brain creature. "Are you insane?" Admiral Veltar's voice crackled over the communicator. "That creature will destroy your ship." "Maybe," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "But it can't create new ships if it's dead. All vessels follow our lead. Stay close and hit it with everything you've got." To the aliens' amazement, several of their own ships began following the Thunderhawk toward the brain creature. The humans' courage was infectious. For the first time in months, alien crews were actually volunteering for the most dangerous part of the battle. The brain creature lashed out with its tentacles, trying to grab the approaching ships, but the Thunderhawk was too fast and too unpredictable. It dodged between the massive arms, firing continuously. "Ji-won, can you target that pulsing section?" Hyunwoo asked. "Already locked on, Captain, but our weapons might not be powerful enough." "Then we'll get closer." So Min plotted a course that took them within meters of the creature's surface. At this range, they could see the individual cells and organs that made up its body. It was both beautiful and terrifying. "Firing," Ji-won announced. The missiles struck the creature's weak point and penetrated deep into its body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the brain creature began to convulse. Dark energy crackled across its surface as its own power turned against it. The explosion lit up half the battle zone. When the light faded, the brain creature was gone. All around the battlefield, the smaller swarm ships stopped moving. Without their command unit, they had become mindless and easy targets for the alien fleet. Admiral Veltar couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Status report. How many swarm ships remain?" "Less than 20% of the original force," his tactical officer reported. "The survivors are retreating toward the outer system." For the first time in months, the Galactic Council had won a major victory against the Void Swarm, and they had done it by following the lead of a single human ship with primitive weapons and impossible courage. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had encountered something very special, a species that didn't know the meaning of impossible. The Galactic Council's fortress station was the largest artificial structure in the galaxy. As the Thunderhawk approached its docking bay, Captain Hyunwoo and his crew could see thousands of different alien ships coming and going. Some were as large as cities, others as small as fighter jets. "I've never seen anything like this," So-min whispered, watching through the view screen as they passed a ship that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. "None of us have," Hyunwoo replied. "Remember, we're representing all of humanity. Here, let's make a good impression." The docking process was surprisingly smooth. The aliens had quickly adapted their systems to accommodate the Thunderhawk's different design. Within an hour, the human crew found themselves walking through corridors filled with beings they had only dreamed about. Admiral Veltar met them at the airlock. He was tall and elegant, with blue skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. "Captain Hyunwoo, welcome to Council Station. Your actions in the battle have saved many lives." "Thank you, Admiral. This is my senior staff." Hyunwoo introduced each crew member as they walked toward the main conference room. The council chamber was enormous, with seats designed for dozens of different alien body types. Crystalline beings sat next to energy creatures. Insect-like aliens shared space with floating gas clouds. At the center of it all was a circular table where the most important decisions in the galaxy were made. Dr. Min Ho, the ship's xenobiologist, couldn't contain his excitement. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and thick glasses who had spent his entire career studying the possibility of alien life. Now he was surrounded by more alien species than he had ever imagined. "Remarkable," he murmured, taking notes on his portable computer. "The diversity is incredible. Each species must have evolved under completely different conditions." Counselor Nixara, the lithoid representative, approached their group. Her crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights like a walking prism. "Dr. Minho, I believe? We are very interested in learning about your species. Your battle tactics were unusual." "Unusual is a polite way to put it," added Commander Thias of the plasma entities. Her voice sounded like electricity crackling through water. Your ship violated every principle of safe space combat, yet somehow it worked. Security Chief Day Young stepped forward. She was a compact woman with quick reflexes and observant eyes. Her job was to protect the captain and crew in dangerous situations. Our tactics worked because we adapted to the situation. We saw what the enemy was doing and found a way to counter it. But how? Asked Captain Crix of the Hive Clusters. His compound eyes studied the humans with intense curiosity. Our battle computers ran millions of simulations. None of them showed victory as possible. Yunji had been listening to the various alien languages being spoken around the chamber. Her talent for communication was proving invaluable in this diverse environment. If I may suggest, she said carefully, perhaps the problem was with the simulations themselves. You were trying to fight the swarm using your own tactics. We fought them using their weaknesses. Dr. Minho opened his computer and began displaying images of Earth's evolutionary history. The aliens gathered around, fascinated by what they saw. Humans evolved as hunters, he explained. For millions of years, our ancestors had to track, chase, and kill other animals to survive. This shaped how our brains work. We look for weaknesses. We adapt quickly. We don't give up when things get difficult. The images showed early humans hunting woolly mammoths, tribes working together to bring down large prey, and the gradual development of tools and weapons. Counselor Nix Ara made a musical sound that might have been surprise. Your species is predatory, but you seem so reasonable. Being a predator doesn't mean being evil, Hyunwoo explained. It means being effective. Humans learn to hunt in groups, to plan together, to protect each other. We became the most successful hunters on our planet, not because we were the strongest, but because we were the smartest. Taeho was examining the station's technical systems with great interest. The engineering was far more advanced than anything on Earth, but he could see how it all worked together. Your technology is impressive, he told the alien engineers, but it's very specialized. Each system does one thing perfectly. Our systems are designed to be modified and adapted. To demonstrate, he showed them a standard human multi-tool. It was a simple device that could function as a knife, screwdriver, wire cutter, and several other things. The aliens were amazed by the concept. You create tools that serve multiple purposes? Asked Engineer Volth, a spider-like alien who maintained the station's systems. But that would make each function less efficient. Sometimes efficiency isn't as important as adaptability, Taeho replied. In an emergency, it's better to have a tool that works adequately than no tool at all. Day Young was demonstrating human combat techniques to a group of alien security officers. Most of them had never seen physical fighting before. Their species resolved conflicts through discussion, energy barriers, or simply avoiding confrontation. The key to human fighting is using your opponent's strength against them, she explained, showing how a smaller person could defeat a larger one through leverage and technique. We don't try to be stronger than our enemies, we try to be smarter. The aliens watched in fascination as she demonstrated basic self-defense moves. The concept of hand-to-hand combat was completely foreign to most of them. Admiral Veltar had been quietly observing the interactions between humans and aliens. Finally, he approached Hyunwoo with a serious expression. Captain, I must ask you something important. Your species clearly has great potential for warfare. How do we know you won't become a threat to us once the swarm is defeated? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every alien in the chamber was listening for the answer. Hyunwoo thought carefully before responding. Admiral, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned something important. The strongest warriors often make the best peacekeepers. We fight to protect, not to conquer. But how can we be certain of that? Pressed Counselor Nixara. So men stepped forward. Because we're here. We traveled for 2 years through empty space, following a signal we didn't understand, to reach a place we'd never seen. When we arrived and found you in trouble, we didn't ask what we could gain from helping. We just helped. The aliens looked at each other, processing this information. Their species had been at peace for so long that they had forgotten what warriors fighting for protection looked like. Dr. Minho displayed more images from Earth's history. These showed humans helping each other during disasters, sharing resources during famines, and working together to solve problems. "Yes, humans are predators," he said, "but we're also pack animals. We protect our pack. And if you're willing to, accept us. We consider you part of our pack now." The chamber fell silent as the aliens absorbed this information. They were beginning to understand that they had encountered something unique, a species that had channeled its aggressive instincts toward protection rather than conquest. Admiral Veltar made a decision that would change galactic history. "Captain, Hyunwoo, would you and your crew be willing to help us plan our next offensive against the Void Swarm? Your tactical insights could be invaluable." "Of course," Hyunwoo replied immediately. "When do we start?" The aliens exchanged looks of amazement. Once again, the humans had responded without hesitation, without asking what they would gain, without calculating the risks. They simply agreed to help. For the first time since the swarm invasion began, the Galactic Council felt real hope for victory. 3 weeks of planning had led to this moment. The combined human-alien fleet hung in space at the edge of the Void Swarm's territory, preparing for the most dangerous mission in galactic history. They were going to attack the swarm's mothership, directly. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Thunderhawk, but his ship looked very different now. Taeho had spent weeks working with alien engineers to upgrade their systems. The hull now gleamed with alien shield generators. New weapon ports had been added to accommodate energy cannons borrowed from the lithoids. The engines had been enhanced with plasma entity technology. "Captain," Taeho reported from his engineering station, "all hybrid systems are online. We've got alien shields powered by our reactor, and our kinetic weapons are now enhanced with energy boosters. This ship is stronger than anything in either fleet." So-Min studied the tactical display showing the target area. The Void Swarm's mothership was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. It sat at the center of a defensive formation of thousands of smaller vessels. Getting close enough to attack it would require flying through the most heavily defended area in the galaxy. "The approach vector looks impossible," she admitted. "Their defensive pattern has no gaps. Any ship trying to get through will be destroyed long before it reaches the mothership." Jiwon checked her weapons for the 100th time. The weapon systems now included both human and alien technology. She could fire energy beams that could slice through asteroids, or kinetic rounds that could punch through any armor. "I'm ready for whatever comes, Captain, but honestly, I don't see how we're going to survive this." Admiral Veltar's voice came over the communicator from his flagship. "All ships, prepare for final approach. Captain Hyunwoo, your vessel will lead the attack. The rest of the fleet will provide support and distraction." Yoonji had been coordinating communications between dozens of different alien species. Each one had their own language, culture, and way of thinking about warfare. Getting them to work together had been like conducting an orchestra where every musician played a different type of instrument. "Captain," she reported, "all fleet commanders, confirm ready. The lithoids will create a diversion on the left flank. The plasma entities will attack from above. The hive clusters will provide cover for civilian evacuation ships." Dr. Minho and Da Young were not on the bridge. They were leading boarding parties in the ship's cargo bay, preparing for the most dangerous part of the mission. If the Thunderhawk managed to reach the mothership, teams would have to go inside and plant explosive charges manually. "Remember," Da Young told the mixed group of humans and aliens, "once we're inside that ship, we'll be facing the enemy on their own ground. Stick together, watch each other's backs, and don't try to be heroes." The alien warriors in her team looked nervous. Most of them had never been in ground combat before, but they had volunteered anyway, inspired by human courage and determination. "All ships, begin attack," Admiral Veltar ordered. The combined fleet moved forward like a spear aimed at the heart of the enemy. Energy beams and kinetic weapons filled space as the battle began. The Void Swarm responded immediately, sending waves of dark ships to meet the attack. The Thunderhawk dove through the chaos like a fish swimming upstream. Its hybrid systems allowed it to take punishment that would have destroyed any normal ship, while its human crew made split-second decisions that confused the enemy's tactical computers. "Multiple targets approaching from starboard," So-Min called out. 20 ships, all heavily armed. "G1, take them out," Hyunwoo ordered. The weapons officer fired a combination of energy beams and kinetic rounds. The swarm ships had adapted to defend against energy weapons, but they still had no answer for physical projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Half of them were destroyed in the first volley, but more ships kept coming. The swarm seemed to have an endless supply of vessels, willing to throw themselves at the approaching fleet. "Captain," Tejo called out, "we're taking heavy damage. The shield generators are overloading. Can you fix them?" "Not from here. Someone would have to go outside and manually reset the systems." Without hesitation, Da Young's voice came over the intercom. "I'll do it. Have an EVA suit ready in airlock 3. Da Young, "No," Hyunwoo protested. "It's too dangerous." "Captain, with respect, everything we're doing is too dangerous. That's why we're here." The security chief suited up and went outside the ship while it was still under attack. Space around. The Thunderhawk was filled with energy beams and explosions, but she worked calmly to repair the shield generators. Her steady hands and training kept her focused, despite the chaos around her. Meanwhile, the fleet's distraction attacks were working. The lithoids had drawn a large portion of the swarm's forces to the left flank, where their crystal ships reflected, and amplified energy weapons in devastating combinations. The plasma entities attacked from above, their energy forms slipping through the enemy's defenses like ghosts. "We're getting close to the mothership," So Min reported. "But there's a problem. The final defensive line is too strong. We'll never break through with just our ship." Hyunwoo looked at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy and into the most dangerous battle in galactic history. Now they faced a choice between retreat and almost certain death. "Yunji, open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Channel open, Captain. All vessels, this is Captain Hyunwoo. We're going to make a final run at the mothership. I won't order anyone to follow us. This is volunteer only." The response was immediate. Every ship in the fleet, human and alien alike, moved to support the Thunderhawk's final attack. They had learned something from fighting alongside humans. Sometimes the impossible was just another word for what hadn't been tried yet. The combined fleet punched through the final defensive line in a coordinated assault that overwhelmed the swarm's ability to respond. Ships were destroyed on both sides, but enough survived to reach the mothership's hull. "De Young, you're up," Hyunwoo announced. The boarding parties launched from the surviving ships, using small shuttles to reach the mothership's surface. They cut through the hull and disappeared inside, racing against time to plant their charges before the swarm could organize a defense. Inside the alien mothership, the humans and aliens worked together in ways that would have seemed impossible weeks earlier. De Young led mixed teams through corridors that seemed designed by nightmares, fighting creatures that existed only to consume and destroy. "Charges placed in Section 7, she reported over the radio. "Section 12 complete," came another voice. Dr. Minho's team had made an incredible discovery. Deep inside the mothership, they found something that looked like a massive brain connected to thousands of computer interfaces. "Captain," Minho's voice crackled over the communicator, "I think I found their central intelligence. It's not just a computer. It's a living creature that's been enslaved by the swarm." Yunji, who had accompanied the boarding party, was already working to communicate with the creature. Her talent for languages extended beyond just words to understanding, the basic patterns of communication itself. "It's trying to tell us something," she said urgently. I think it wants to help us. It's been forced to coordinate the swarm's attacks, but it doesn't want to. This changed everything. Instead of just destroying the mothership, they might be able to turn it against the swarm itself." "Can you free it?" Da Young asked. "Maybe. But I'll need time." Time was something they didn't have. Swarm reinforcements were arriving, and the boarding parties were under increasing attack. But once again, human determination found a way. The teams held their positions, fighting desperately to give Yunji the time she needed to free the enslaved intelligence. When she finally succeeded, the results were spectacular. The mothership turned its weapons against its own forces, and the entire swarm fleet began to collapse as their coordination system failed. The galaxy had been saved by human courage and alien cooperation working together. 6 months after the victory over the Void Swarm, the Galactic Council's fortress station buzzed with activity unlike anything in its long history. Where once there had been only alien faces in the corridors, now humans walked alongside beings from dozens of different worlds, working together on projects that would have been impossible before first contact. Captain Hyun-woo stood in his new office, looking out at the vast construction project taking place outside the station. New ships were being built using combined human and alien technology. These vessels looked like nothing that had ever existed before, blending the practical adaptability of human design with the advanced science of galactic civilization. A soft chime announced a visitor. Admiral Veltar entered, carrying a data pad filled with reports from across the galaxy. "Captain," the Zephyrian admiral said, "the latest reports from the Outer Rim are encouraging. The new defensive doctrine is working. 3 separate swarm remnant groups have been defeated using your tactical principles." Hyun-woo nodded with satisfaction. The new military doctrine combined human adaptability with alien resources. Instead of trying to overwhelm the enemy with superior technology, they now focused on finding weaknesses and exploiting them. It was a fundamental change in how the galaxy thought about warfare. "How are the training programs going?" Hyun-woo asked. "Better than we hoped. So-Min's Adaptive Warfare Institute has graduated its first class of mixed-species tactical officers. They're already being assigned to fleet commands throughout the Council territory." So-Min had proven to be a gifted teacher as well as a navigator. Her ability to see patterns and weaknesses had made her the perfect person to train alien officers in human military thinking. The institute she founded was already considered the most important military academy in the galaxy. Down in the engineering sections, Tae-ho was working with teams of alien scientists on projects that pushed the boundaries of known science. His workshop looked like something from a fantasy story, with crystalline lithoid computing devices sitting next to human power. Tools, while plasma entity technicians moved like living lightning through holographic displays. "The new shield harmonics are working perfectly," reported Engineer Voth, the spider-like alien who had become Tae-ho's closest collaborator. "Your adaptive modulation technique has increased defensive efficiency by 40%. Tae-ho smiled as he watched a young hive cluster engineer successfully repair a human-designed reactor using improvised tools. "That's not the important part," he said. "The important part is that she didn't follow the manual. She saw what was needed and found her own solution. This was the real revolution that humans had brought to the galaxy. Not just new weapons or tactics, but a new way of thinking. The aliens were learning to improvise, to adapt, to see problems from new angles. In the Academy's training facilities, Da-young was teaching her most difficult class yet, how to fight when everything goes wrong. The students were volunteers from species that had never experienced physical combat, learning skills they hoped they would never need to use. "The key is not to panic," she told a mixed group of lithoids, plasma entities, and others. "When your equipment fails, when your plans don't work, when everything seems impossible, that's when human training becomes most valuable. You don't give up. You find another way." A young lithoid raised her crystalline hand. "Instructor Da-young, my people have protocols for every situation. How do we function without protocols?" "By trusting yourself," Da-young replied. "Protocols are good for normal situations, but emergencies are never normal. In an emergency, you have to think for yourself." She was teaching them something that no alien species had ever learned. How to be warriors when being a warrior meant abandoning everything they thought they knew about fighting. In the diplomatic quarters, Yun-ji was preparing for the most important presentation of her life. Today, the Galactic Council would vote on humanity's formal application for membership. She had spent months learning the political customs of dozens of species, building relationships, and understanding the complex web of alliances that governed galactic politics. Dr. Min-ho entered her office carrying a bound copy of his completed research. The xenobiologist had become something of a celebrity in academic circles with his comparative study of human and alien psychology. "Yun-ji, I wanted you to have the first copy," he said, presenting her with the book. The title read, "The Predators, Peace, How Aggressive Evolution Led to Cooperative Civilization." "Thank you, Dr. Min-ho. How has the academic community responded?" "Better than I expected. The concept that predatory instincts can be channeled toward protection rather than conquest has revolutionized xenopsychology. Several universities want to establish human studies programs. The book had already become required reading at military academies throughout the galaxy. It explained why humans fought so effectively. not because they were naturally violent, but because they were naturally protective. As the day of the vote approached, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the council chamber. The debate was spirited but respectful. Some species still worried about human military capabilities. Others argued that humanity's proven willingness to fight for others made them ideal council members. Councillor Nixara spoke for the lithoids. 6 months ago, we faced extinction. Today, we are stronger than ever, not because of human weapons, but because of human thinking. They have taught us that strength comes not from avoiding conflict, but from being willing to face it for the right reasons. Commander Theiss of the plasma entities agreed. Humans have shown us that warriors and peacekeepers are not opposites. The strongest peace comes from those who are capable of war, but choose cooperation instead. Captain Crix of the Hive Clusters provided the most compelling argument. Before the humans arrived, we thought in terms of survival. Now we think in terms of victory. Not victory over others, but victory over the challenges that face us all. When the vote was finally called, it was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the Galactic Council, not as junior members, but as full partners in galactic civilization. The celebration that followed lasted for 3 days and included traditions from dozens of worlds. Human music played alongside alien symphonies. Earth foods were served next to dishes that had no names in any human language, but the real celebration was quieter and more meaningful. It happened in workshops where human and alien engineers solved problems together. It occurred in classrooms where different species learned from each other. It took place on ships where mixed crews explored the galaxy with curiosity instead of fear. As the formal ceremonies ended, Hyunwoo found himself standing again at his office window, watching the construction of new ships. But now, he wasn't alone. His crew stood with him, along with alien friends who had become like family. "Captain," Somin said, "look at that." She pointed to one of the new ships being built. Its crew was visible through the transparent hull sections, working together on the bridge. Humans sat next to lithoids. Plasma entities worked alongside hive clusters. And in the captain's chair was a young Zephyrian who had graduated from Somin's academy. 6 months ago, none of them had ever seen each other, Jiwon observed. Now, they're exploring the galaxy together. Taeho smiled. That's what happens when different kinds of thinking come together. You get solutions that no one could have imagined alone. Daeyoung nodded toward the training facilities where her latest class was practicing. And when everyone knows how to fight for what matters, you get peace that's actually worth keeping. Yoonji held up a message pad showing communications from across the galaxy. The reports keep coming in. Former enemies are requesting council mediation. Species that haven't spoken in centuries are starting diplomatic talks. It's like the whole galaxy is learning to solve problems the human way. Dr. Minho closed his research notes with satisfaction. The human way, he mused. I like that. Not through domination or submission, but through cooperation backed by the strength to protect what you've built together. Outside the window, more ships departed for distant stars. Each one carried mixed crews and the combined knowledge of dozens of civilizations. They were explorers, diplomats, defenders, and teachers all at once. The galaxy had found something. It didn't know it was missing. A species that fought not to conquer, but to protect. Warriors who became peacekeepers not by abandoning their strength, but by using it wisely. And in the vast darkness between the stars, humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.